to Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes. From their first to their worst, we're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, a man with stacked goals, Wade Simmons, a funeral service worker, aspiring pro wrestler, and filmmaker who is here to talk not only about his creative endeavors behind the camera, but also his first crush from elementary school. Wade, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Good. So I want to start off by asking, when did you go to elementary school? Like, what year was it?
I mean, I was born in 92, so it was in the 90s.
Okay, because I'm starting to realize people that were children in the 2000s are actual adults now. So I'm kind of like, wait, what? Because it's not all just me where I was born in the 80s and my brother's 93, so I get it. You're of age.
Yeah. So I'm 30 now, so it was I want to say it had to be I was born in 92, maybe around 93, 94, somewhere in that ballpark.
Okay, and before we get to the crush, what was elementary school like for you? Do you have fond memories of elementary school?
I have great memories. I mean, that's actually where I did a lot of my camera work as a kid. I used to bring my, video camera to school and record stuff. But I had a blast in elementary school. It was, to me, I loved it better than high school, to be honest.
I mean, isn't that the case though? You get recess. It's come middle school, they take that away, and it's such a shock to the system.
Yeah, because I was at the same elementary school from preschool all the way to 8th grade. So I was there for a while, I pretty much had my whole childhood at that school.
Oh, so you went K through 8 and then you went off to high school.
Yep.
Oh, see, I went K through 5th, and then we had 6th, 7th, 8th was middle school, and then we went to high school. So I kind of little pocket of puberty.
Yeah, well, I guess because when I went, I was in Chicago public school on the west side of Chicago. So yeah, we had preschool through 8th grade. I mean, some people left and went to a different school, but a majority of us stayed there all the way out.
Okay, so Brianna or Brianna?
It's Brianna.
Brianna, she was your first crush ever, or was she the first real life crush? Because sometimes we have crushes on cartoon characters or people on TV.
So she had to be the first crush ever, to be honest, because it was around first grade.
Wow, that's starting pretty early.
Yeah.
And were you in the same class as her, or was she someone you saw on the playground and were like, who is that?
No, we were in the same class. I mean, and we knew each other all throughout elementary school. It was kind of funny because I had a crush all the way through.
I mean, that's got to be intense. And what was she like? Was she one of those girls that everybody had a crush on, or was she kind of different?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, she was a really, cute young lady. I mean, she's still actually even more beautiful to this day. But I mean, we were so young, but I don't know, it was just something about it that I liked, And it was funny because I remember her father, he knew that I liked it. He was like, boy, I'm gonna sit on you.
How did he know you liked her?
Because the crazy thing about it was my mother and my uncles, they went to the same elementary school that I went to, and I believe her father went there too when he was young. So they kind of knew each other.
Okay, so it's a pretty much say Chicago, but it seems like you were in a tight-knit community.
I mean, yeah, because it was the west side of Chicago, and I mean, a lot of people that went to, because I mean, even now, I went to a school called Jensen. Some of the people who were there when I was there, some of their kids go to the school now. It's crazy.
Have any of the people you grew up with become teachers at that school? To
my knowledge, no. I think, but I mean, some of the teachers are still there though, which I find to be amazing.
That is wild. My 5th grade teacher is, he's still at the elementary school that I went to, and my 1st and 2nd grade teacher, she retired about 4 years ago. So that was crazy. And I'm 35, so it's they were there a long time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is a long time.
And were you on Brianna's radar at all, or did she like someone else?
I mean, I think she might have liked it with her, but it was kind of funny because she was aware of it, you know. But it was just more like a little funny thing, you know.
Do you know if she like liked anyone at the time? Like, were there rumors around the playground?
Not so much really, you know. It was just more so like, you know, I was kind of like, you know, like had a crush on her. So, but it was funny though because like one day I remember she gave me the finger. That was funny.
She was a ballsy. I didn't cuss or say anything bad. I didn't even flip anyone off until I was like 22 or so. So for me, the most stressful thing about a crush while in school was the person finding out. And you mentioned that her father knew, but did she know?
Yeah, she knew because like I said, it was like for a long period of time.
Did she ever try to like get anything out of you because she knew you liked her?
No, she wasn't like that. No, it was more kind of just like it was more kind of like just wishful thinking. But I mean, she was aware of it.
And I mean, there's some girls like that. I think we call them mean girls, popular girls, but it sounds like she was a good girl, other than flipping you off on the playground. So you said the crush lasted through elementary school. Does that mean you guys ended up going to different high schools, or once you got to high school, you maybe saw someone else?
I mean, I went to high school, and I ended up going to high school in the south suburbs. She went to, I think, Cary, which is in the city, kind of like on the southwest side. So yeah, you know, we ended up in different places. But I mean, you know, I still thought about it, but like, you know, by that time I was kind of past that stage, you know. But I mean, you never forget your first crush, right?
Was it heartbreaking to find out that she was going to spend the next 4 years at a different school?
Actually, no. I mean, it was kind of like I think over time, like I outgrew it. But I mean, I think the funny thing about it was that while I was in high school, though, I didn't really have any more crushes on anybody then until like maybe till like I got to college, and then once I got to college, I had like 3 other ones. But other than that, she's always kind of been like the number one.
Interesting. I remember elementary school, I always had like the one big crush during every like stage of life, and we had like 4 elementary schools in our district, and then 2 middle schools. My crush ended up going to the other middle school, and then we have 1 high school, and I was so excited on that first day to be like, oh my, because we were also like advanced honor roll students. So I was like, we're probably gonna have some of the same classes. Oh my God, I'm gonna see him again. And then he got into a fight like the first week of school, and his mom pulled him and took him to the city, like the next city over, high school, and I didn't see him ever again.
Oh well, yeah, you know that got to be heartbreaking. But I mean, you know, but I mean, to be honest, even in high school, like I still would think about it from time to time, you know.
Yeah, and looking back, why do you think that when I asked you to pick a crush, she was like the first one to come to mind? Was it because she was the first? Because you liked her so long?
Yeah, because she was the first, and I liked her so long, and you know, and I feel like to me that was like one of the best ones I ever had, because like, you know, recently I actually reached out to her, and every now and then I, you know, check on her and things like that, but you know, she told me her father passed away, which I thought was crazy. But I mean, it's kind of good to know that she's doing very well now. And I mean, she still looked just as good as she did when we were younger. That's even crazy. Yeah, but she's even more beautiful now. But you know, I'm proud of the things she's accomplished, though.
She told you her father passed because he probably told her, you better tell that Wade boy. I'm still looking after him though when I'm gone. Still gonna sit on them. So why do you think that we hold those like first crushes when we're kids so close to our hearts? Like we still think, even though we know it's not going to happen as we're adults, but we still have this like sentimental feeling towards them.
You know what I think? I think it's because, you know, as a kid, you're more curious and you don't really understand. You know, you just kind of know that you have a feeling, but you know, you don't really, you know, learn about those things until you get like older and stuff, because like, you know, like looking back then, like, as a kid, you really don't understand it. But as start to grow and get older, you start to kind of look at life a little more differently, and respectfully too. And then you kind of know when to move on, and you kind of know when to stop and when to go. So I feel like in a way it was kind of nice to have that crush as a kid. But as you get older and stuff like that, I think now it doesn't last as long. I mean, at least for me, because I kind of have a very different perspective on like romance and stuff like that.
You mentioned you kind of check in on her from time to time. She'll tell you big events in her life. You said she's doing good. Have you ever tried to like connect with her romantically as adults, or did you leave it in the past?
No, I kind of left it in the past because, like, my thing is like, I mean, I respect her as a young lady, and I'm just proud of her. I think I kind of outgrew that stage a little bit. But I mean, it's nice to know that she's doing well.
You guys are gone your separate ways. That's okay. But in like a fantasy world, if you two had become like childhood sweethearts, had gone to the same high school, things had worked out, and you got to spend your life with her, what do you think your lives would be like today?
Now that'll be interesting. I'm not sure, but I mean that would be interesting because I mean it could be good, it could be bad. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of the thing about romance. You never know where to end up. Because a lot of times it starts out well, but sometimes the ending don't go so well.
Do you think you would have fizzled maybe after high school?
Could have been.
That's some. I mean, I have friends from high school who are still together to this day, and that's very interesting. But some that are not, but quite a few. I'm from a small town, so a few lifelong couples there.
Yeah, it does happen for some people, but it's very rare, I mean, to be honest, it's very rare for people to meet each other 3 years and last sometimes, the way things going nowadays, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's very surprising, but I think now we just want somebody. It's been like a lonely couple of years. Some people, and I mean, dating during a pandemic, I couldn't even imagine. I'm glad I didn't have to. So now it's time to talk more about you. First off, I am interested. How did you get involved with funeral services? Because that's something I did look into like years and years ago, and I was like, oh, it's too much school.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you there, but the funny thing about it was in elementary school, I knew that I wanted to be a mortician. It was just something about the job that I've always been interested in. And so when I got to high school, one of my teachers had called the gentleman that I work for now, Mr. Spencer Lee, and she's like, I got a student here, he wants to be a mortician. And he told me like, well, wear a gold tie, wear a white shirt, wear a black suit and come in. And so I've been there for 11 years now, and I ended up going to school for it back in 2016. I came out in 18, but it was a really unique experience. I mean, going to school for it and everything. I mean, because it's like, I had already knew the business, but I went to school to get the qualifications or whatever. But I mean, for the most part, it's always been something that I wanted to do. But I mean, don't get me wrong, like to get the license and things like that, because I'm still not licensed yet, but it's really hard, unnecessarily hard. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. It seems like it's hard, but it's like, why is it so hard? Like you're dealing with, the people you deal with, they're not gonna come complain, right?
I don't know. Well, the thing about it to me is not as hard. The funny thing about funeral service is like a lot of the people who had not been working in the business, a lot of them are the ones who got licensed, and then a lot of the people that I know who have been doing it, even some people that grew up in the business, I mean, they had a hard time getting their license. So I'm like, it kind of makes you wonder, like, I feel that it's something that kind of needs some adjustments, but I mean, anything that's lucrative, they're gonna make it hard for people to keep people from getting into the business.
That is very true. And you're also training to be a pro wrestler. When did you start to focus on that? Is this another elementary school dream you manifested?
Actually, sort of, kind of, yeah. But I actually did amateur wrestling freshman year and senior year of high school, and I always kind of like wanted to maybe go on WWE for something, and maybe get on TV and like wrestle one of my favorite wrestlers or something. So, but what ended up happening was that I wanted to make a documentary about wrestling, and I reached out to one of the Chicago top pro wrestling trainers, really well respected gentleman. And he's wrestled, different promotions and things like that. And I was telling him, like, I want to make a documentary with him. So he's like, well, come in or whatever. And so, from me talking to him, he knew that I did amateur wrestling. So when I got there, he like, well, when you gonna start training? So I'm like, well, I'll start next week. So this happened last year. So I've been doing it ever since. And I mean, since I've gotten the chance to wrestle, I've met a couple of WWE former wrestlers and things like that. And then I've been meeting a lot of other independent wrestlers who coming up. So I think that's pretty cool.
And do you have any like WWE superstars that you've idolized on that level? Like if you like were to make a career out of it that you'd kind of mirror, maybe The Undertaker, you are a funeral service.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm a very big fan of Paul Heyman, the Brock Lesnar's manager. Well, he's Roman Reigns' manager now, but I was very a big fan of his because, like, as a manager, he was always like kind of like a top heel. He's good at what he does, but to be honest with you, one of my favorite wrestlers was like the Road Dogg from DX. I liked Carlito. He was one of my favorite. MVP, Chris Jericho. Even Kane is my ultimate favorite. But just kind of seeing them do what they do, I actually enjoyed it. And the funny thing about it was, like, Kane, when he did his retirement speech, I thought that was really motivating because, like, I saw how he talked about, like, how he failed in life and things like that, and like how he ended up stumbling into wrestling and he became an international superstar. I listened to the Undertaker retirement speech and how, he talked about how he used to play basketball and he ended up getting into pro wrestling, and he said that he was miserable at one point in his life and he wanted to really pursue wrestling. And so his brother had encouraged him to pursue his dream. And I mean, now look, he was able to retire from professional wrestling. So, those are kind of like my heroes there.
And now on to another dream you're pursuing, filmmaking. That seems to be your number one at the moment. Thinking back, can you recall like what movie made you go, man, I want to do that. I want to make movies.
Yeah, well, you know what? The funny thing about it, even that happened in elementary school. I was a very big fan of Walt Disney, actually. I mean, I was so obsessed with like Walt Disney's life to where, like, I used to go to the library. I would check out books about his life. And I mean, even at school, like, I remember, I think we had some books there that I used to check out, and I used to read about how, like myself, he was from Chicago and he loved trains. I mean, he loved like making cartoon characters and things like that. And see, like, the funny thing about it was, like, me, I always wanted to draw. My father is an artist, but I could never draw. So I used to pay some friends of mine in elementary school. One of them was Kenneth Mines, another one was young man Corey, to draw cartoon characters for me. And I remember Kenneth telling me, like, man, if this character make it big, you better pay me my money. I was like, I guess. But I mean, yeah, I was always a big fan of Walt Disney, which kind of, led me into wanting to become a filmmaker. But that was my ultimate childhood hero. And then as I got older, I became a big fan of like George Lucas, Spike Lee, Jordan Peele, even Seth Rogen. Like, Seth Rogen, like, to me, I kind of like his sense of humor,
Yeah, he's made some really good movies. I really like Good Boys. The one you did about that one's really good. Going back to Disney though, what were like some of your favorite Disney movies as a kid? Like, what would be your like top 3 in elementary school?
My top 3, it would be like the Goofy movie. I don't know if you remember that one, but that was
one of my favorites.
Yeah, because Goofy is one of my favorite Disney characters. But the other one would be like, well, that's Disney and Pixar, but Toy Story. I was a big fan of Toy Story. And you know what? And actually, the Aristocats would be the third one.
Oh, Aristocats, a classic one from the Bronze Age that people don't really, they kind of just trash. But I love Robin Hood, so I think a lot of movies came from that era that are really good.
Yeah, the Disney Robin Hood. I used to watch that cartoon over and over a lot too. Mm-hmm. Like yeah, I used to like, and I mean, I know like now in this day and time, a lot of people go back and kind of look at those movies and be like, but what I say to people about being an artist is that, sometimes as an artist, they teach you to be intentional, but sometimes when other people see your work, they pick it apart. But a lot of times, there are some things in movies that were like, some people interpret it to be things that the artist didn't intend on it to be, but that's just the way people take it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Speaking of
so
like interpreting, what is your thoughts on when people like all these remakes and reboots? Like, do you think they should be off limits, or should like a new artist be able, or a new director or writer be able to take them on and interpret them in a new way, or should we leave the classics alone?
well, me personally, I mean, I'm always an advocate for creating something new just because, like, I like to leave the classics alone. I mean, but if somebody comes along and makes a remake that's good, I mean, I'm not totally against it. Like, like the Lion King remake. I like the cartoon version a little better just because I grew up with it. But I mean, it was kind of nice to see them try, you know.
It was I didn't see it because it just looked like a nature documentary, and I was like, that's a little too much. And I love the
Yeah.
cartoons, so I don't like. I think the only one I've liked that they've redone live action or whatever is the Jungle Book. I think because I
Oh
don't have
yeah.
a personal connection to that one so much. It's from so
Well,
long ago.
Well, you know what the Jungle Book was actually one of my favorites too, because like but Baloo the Bear in that movie, like he said something in that movie that like I kind of took as a real life principle to this day. When he tells Mowgli, he says, don't spend your time looking around for something you want that can't be found. And then he tell him like, if you can go alone not thinking about it, you just realize you can live without it. And like that's a philosophy that I actually live by. So I actually love that movie.
I didn't realize Baloo was so deep. I haven't seen it in so long, but that is a really good quote. Now I'm probably gonna go watch it later.
Yeah, I love that quote because like, to me, I feel like that's like it's funny that a kid's movie actually inspired me in that way because like I'm the type of person now where like if something is out of my control, I really don't worry about it, and that's all because of what Baloo the Bear said.
It's just that the bare necessities of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, what are some current film projects that you're working on?
So right now I have my own like web series that's like a fictionalized version of my life, but I'm also working on more documentaries too.
What are they about? Like, can you give us some insight on some of them?
So I'm working on like a bunch of random documentaries about people who have like different day jobs and stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because like I love hearing other people's stories and just kind of sitting down and getting a chance to like talk to them because like being somebody that work in funeral service, when a lot of times the people that you service, I mean you're dealing with the family, but when you're dealing with like deceased people, you kind of look like what was this person's life like, and you're around people at a sad time, and then you don't really know if they made the most of their time, if they did or they didn't. But the fact that as a filmmaker I can get to know people and interview them and find out about their life, I feel like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's why I like doing the podcast. I like hearing a little bit about somebody's life that has a creative endeavor as well. I love people's stories. I always say everyone's like a book. We're all different types of genres, different lengths. So I always want to, open it up and read.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, you'll find out a lot of interesting things about people. I mean, but it's just all in just talking and getting to know people.
What got you into like documentary making? Because that's like, if I find a good documentary on Netflix, I'm in it. I'm in the chair for the night.
So when I went to film school, we had a documentary class, and we had to make a documentary. And I mean, ever since I had that class, I fell in love with it because most of the films that I've made are narrative films. I mean, like you get some actors, you get a couple of friends and family, you give them a script or whatever. Cause I mean, I'm not a very traditional filmmaker. Like I kind of have a different style, but it's like what I like about a documentary. It's like instead of you worrying about people acting or you didn't say this line right, or you didn't, you just get a person together and you have a conversation, and then you kind of fix it up a little bit, get the lights correct, and you just pretty much let this person tell their story, and then you figure out a way to visually, put it together, with B-roll. I think that's pretty cool because it's like a person don't get judged on acting in the documentary; they're just telling their story, and then you just find a way to put the images with it.
So you have all these projects coming up, the film projects, but where can we find you online?
So you can find me on Vimeo. It's Wade Filmmaker 37s on Vimeo, and then I am on Instagram. I rarely post there. I'm gonna start doing it soon, but Wade Jedi 99 on Instagram. I'm a huge Star Wars fan too, so.
Oh, did you enjoy what was the last one we had? Obi-Wan?
I have kind of mixed emotions about it. I mean, I'm glad that they brought the actors back, but I mean, you know, I feel like the series just made people have more questions.
I enjoyed it, but then I was a big Hayden Christensen was one of my big high school crushes, and I was like, oh my god, he's coming back, and then I was like, oh yeah, he got like burnt, so he's not gonna be cute. It's gonna be so I was kind of like, oh yeah, but it was good. I'm a big fan of the Mandalorian though. I think that
Oh
one.
yeah, now that one, now yeah, I give them props there. They're doing, but you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, for the most part, I liked it too. But I'm just saying that like
Yeah.
it made people have more questions though, you know.
Well, they're gonna have so much more. I know they have a few more series coming out over the next couple of years, and I'm excited. That's like the only reason we're keeping Disney Plus is they keep churning out those Marvel and Star Wars shows.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very big fan of Grogu though. I mean, I was a big Yoda fan, but my favorite Jedi is Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, I love Grogu. Like that is the cutest little thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
So cute. But yeah, well, that's all I got for you. I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about your elementary school crush. And everyone, you can find all of Wade's information below. And until next time, keep crushing it.